Welcome back to the Gun Collective Podcast. My name is Jon Patton. Boys and girls, we have an amazing guest this week. I say that every damn time. I swear to you, I mean it every damn time. But first, we got to talk about our sponsor this week, Vertex. Go to vertx.com and use code TGC. It will get you at least 15% off, and quite often they bump that up to give you 20, 25%, maybe even 30%. It depends on how froggy they're feeling. Go try it out, vertex.com. They've got apparel, EDC bags, and storage for your vehicle. John, have you ever used any Vertex gear?
I don't believe I have. You have to check it out sometime.
We're gonna have to change that. I'm gonna
Okay.
I have bags coming out of my ears, and I think you'd really like them with the amount that you travel. The link is vertx.com and use code TGC. Boys and girls, we have John Hickok on the show. John, how are you?
Good. How you doing? It's great to be here.
I'm good, man. You are, as someone would describe this, YouTube royalty. That's what. Go ahead.
I was saying, I feel like we all are now. You know, I was just talking with Dave from 22 Plinkster about this. How it's crazy how like we're all so old. We're old YouTubers now.
Dude, I just turned 40, and when I started, I think I was like 28, something like that. Yeah, and how long have you guys, like, your main channel, the Hickok45 channel, how long has that been going right now?
So the channel was created in 2007 when we really started like making videos. It was like that kind of the fall of 2008, kind of around in there. And then that summer of 2009 was kind of when we were like, oh, this is we're going to take this serious kind of thing.
When did you what made you go, oh, we can take this serious? What was like the catalyst for that?
Just the attention that it got, because we kind of put it up there as just a why not, kind of thing. And then, oh, people are watching this, they're wanting more, they're asking for more, so that we realized like, oh, okay, if we're gonna continue putting out more, we're gonna have to sort of be organized on a certain level, and it sort of ups the ante a little bit,
Right. Did you guys already have like a huge collection of stuff to like pull from to make videos about?
Oh yeah, Dad's been a collector for ever, and he had a ton of stuff. I remember there was a point where we got through his collection and what few guns I had, and then we started kind of trying to game plan. Like, all right, now we got to figure out how to get more guns. We're gonna like create this gun fund where basically we like buy a gun, do a video, and then sell it, and then buy another gun, and then just try to like because we knew we were going to lose money each time, but try to pump just enough money in where we could keep guns going. And then we got the opportunity to just borrow guns from like random viewers and gun shops or whatever, and that was just kind of how we got started like accessing stuff to do videos on.
It's funny, I don't think people realize that that's how it was when things started. Like, there was no, like, manufacturers did not even know what YouTube was all about, let alone send out guns willy-nilly.
Right.
I mean, you guys were sort of on the fore end of that. When was like the first manufacturer that like gave a crap about you guys? Who was that?
Well, we never did a lot with manufacturers. I mean, when we got our deal with Buds, that was
that was the big one.
Yeah, the first big validation that we got. Oh, okay, someone that recognizes that what we're doing is important on some level, enough for them to pay us to be sponsored by them and everything.
Right. And that was what, like 2013, 2014, somewhere in there?
Something like that. It's been over 10 years now. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh
crazy. I know. Crazy, right?
Making me feel super old. Because when that happened, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. They got a good deal. Maybe the rest of us will get a deal. Oh my gosh.
It's crazy how long ago that was. I hate that I feel like there was never a period where like content creators were just respected as a legitimate thing. I feel like it went from having to explain to people what we do to people like hating us.
Well, I mean, when you guys I don't, to you it probably doesn't seem quickly, but for a lot of people it was a fairly quick rise to the top, right? Like, you guys became pretty popular in short order, at least compared to some others.
Right.
Uh, so in that position, do you feel like you became like kind of a scapegoat?
No, I mean, just in general. As far as like, 'cause I remember I'd tell friends about like what I do for a living, and they didn't really believe me. They didn't really understand it. You know what I mean? It didn't make any sense to them. But then once the general public understood that, YouTubers or content creators is a thing, then it was like, and then they think of like Logan Paul and like all these type of guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there was never this like sweet spot where it was like, oh, this is just a respected career that some people have, you know?
I heard something the other day about like, I guess it's Generation Alpha, Gen Z, whatever the hell it is, the children these days, the
Right, right.
kids these days.
Yeah, these
Uh,
damn kids.
yeah, they like their number one choice for a career path is like YouTuber or influencer. What is that like for you as somebody that sort of came up as a young guy and sort of helped create that category?
It's very strange. It's hard to get used to, because again, it's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, living through it, I'm still getting used to the fact that we're like old in this
Right, right.
uh space now, and yeah, I don't know, man. It's bizarre. It's very strange. That's all I can say, honestly.
Well, the other thing that I don't know if people out there realize this because you and your dad are very similar in height, but at any gun event, you and your dad stick out just by being tall. How tall are you, John?
6'8". We're both 6'8".
6'8".
Yeah,
Okay.
unless Dad's shrinking. People been saying that I'm taller than him, but I mean, he might be shrinking. I
Maybe.
feel like
I mean,
if you're
I mean,
6'8", though, you get to own that your whole life, even if you
yeah,
shrink
yeah,
down to
yeah.
6'5".
How long have you been 6'8"? No, I so like you guys get a ton of attention, not just because you've been in this a while, but you're easy to spot
Yeah.
at any event. What is that like when you go to say like SHOT or NRA annual meeting? What is that like?
Yeah, I don't know. It's, when we go to, like, a gun event, we sort of expect it, to happen. I don't know, you just sort of I feel like you get used to it, and,
Okay.
you just sort of get into a zone where just, people you don't know are gonna wanna talk to you, and you just kinda get, you know what I mean? Just kinda get comfortable with it. The
Sure.
ones that are strange is, like, when you're just out in the wild normally, and someone sort of comes out of the wood. I'll tell you a funny one that
All
happened, like,
right.
a few days ago. Um, so, my parents and, my son were visiting, me up here in Chicago. We went to
Okay.
the Chinatown in Chicago, right? And
Super cool place.
you've been there? It's very cool.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
It's very cool, and, we were having a conversation about what restaurant we were gonna go to. We were thinking Chinese probably, and we're trying to
Yeah,
just
maybe.
yeah, yeah. I was like, "Pizza," they were like, "Chinese." We're trying to decide where to go, and I realized, like, "Oh, I gotta pay for parking real quick," right?
Okay.
And, I went to go pay for the parking, and as I walk back, I see my dad talking to a Chinese man, and I'm like, "Oh, no." He's asking him where the best restaurant is. He just stopped a random
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah. You're like, is my dad horribly racist right now?
Yeah. I was like, "Oh, no." He just stopped the guy and was like, "Hey, where's the best Chinese restaurant?" And, I get up there, and he wants a photo because he watches the videos. I'm like, "Oh, thank God."
Dude,
Thank
that's amazing. I mean, you got to have all types. I mean, how many? It's over 10 million subscribers now, right, on YouTube.
No, not yet. We're at, like, 7.5 still.
Dude, I could have okay. So 7.5
Yeah.
million. Forgive
Hopefully
me,
one
but
day.
holy shit, that is an enormous amount of people. Just people in general. That is an enormous amount of people. And then you've got the new Clips channel, which looks like it's doing really well. How's that
Yeah.
going?
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with that. I don't know why that was something. I don't know why I didn't think to do that sooner, but it's just kind of fun because I have so much footage at my fingertips,
Yeah,
and we don't have to really follow the same rules that we do on our main channel because I feel like we've established kind of a brand that we try to stick to that
sure.
people come to expect. But it's sort of like there's really less rules on this channel where it's like, hey, I can just do whatever I want with all of our old content and try to make it interesting and package it in different ways and do different things with it. And I'm posting a new video every single day. So I feel like if you don't like one of them, okay, there's another one tomorrow, kind of thing. So it's been fun to kind of play with. And
Sure.
the frustrating thing is though, you know how it is being a content creator. It's so difficult to get the word out about things,
Yes, it
right?
is. Yes, it's
I mean, it's crazy how difficult it is. And so we'll constantly get comments, and people think it's the main channel. They don't notice that it's the clips channel. We have people accusing
oh,
the channel of stealing our content, even though we're constantly like, "Hey, it's us. We're making this."
like,
You know?
hey, this is. I saw the announcement video and I
Right.
saw all the clips and stuff, and I'm like, okay, this makes perfect sense for them. But
Yeah.
you,
People be
you
like,
have
"Hey, this is
people
an old
actually
video."
accusing you of stealing your own stuff.
That's happened a few times. And people are like, "Hey, this is old. I already saw this video." It's like, yeah, that's kind of the deal here.
What's kind of amazing to me is that people remember all the videos of yours that they've seen.
Yeah, well, most don't, but yeah, a few. It is. There are some out there, yeah, that watch everything, which is crazy. Hard to
Like, calm
imagine.
down, you fucking lunatic. That's
Yeah,
super weird.
yeah. What are you doing?
Like, I don't even remember what video I made 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, I know totally.
So you've been at this forever, and I mean, you basically grew up being a sort of micro celebrity in certain ways, at
Very
least
very micro.
certainly in the firearms industry, but in
Yeah,
YouTube in general. I mean, you guys have had a huge following for a long time, which is not easy to do, especially nowadays. It's even more difficult. But somewhere along the way, you decided to kind of like deviate. When did you realize that comedy was like the next step for you? Because I would have never guessed that you were going to be a stand-up comedian. Like, when did that happen?
well, I've always been a fan of stand up,
Right.
and I'll tell you, I think it's kind of funny how I got into being into stand up as a fan. So when I was when I was in high school, well, I was like middle school. No, this would have been middle school.
Okay.
Um, I was playing basketball. And growing up with my parents, I was into like country music, classic rock, things like that. But then playing basketball, be around other types of kids. I started getting into rap, and I was a
Okay.
child, so I was like, they cuss in this. This is awesome, right? I want to hear as much cussing as possible. This is
Yeah,
so cool.
maximum cuss.
Exactly. And I used to stay up late at night and I would watch this show called BET Uncut, where they would show like rap videos with the cussing. I was like, oh, this is the best. My parents didn't know I was watching it. I was up late sneaking around watching it. And then they would show the original Kings of Comedy special,
Oh my
right, on
gosh.
there,
Oh my
uncensored.
gosh.
And that was like where I discovered stand up. I was like, this is so much more cussing and it's hilarious. you
Dude,
know,
I still quote that special.
it's so good.
Like, I quote that all the time. Somebody help me babysit these motherfuckers. Comes out of my mouth on a regular basis.
It's so good.
Bernie
Bernie
Mac,
Mac is my
legendary,
favorite from that one.
legendary, man.
Absolutely. So yeah, I kind of got into stand up from that. I remember the LimeWire days. Remember that?
Yes,
I used to
yes.
download comedy from there. There's this bit that I don't know who did it, but it's always been in my head because I remember it was one of the first ones that I found on there. And the joke was, it was like it was a black comic. It was like when the bill collector calls, they'll be like, now when can I expect payment? Motherfucker, you can expect payment whenever you want.
Oh, how about you pick a date? We both be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. So
Dude, I can't remember who did that, but
no,
that
I can't
was,
either. I know. I
dude,
just randomly something I found. But anyways, long story short, that was sort of how I got into comedy. I've always been a fan of it,
sure.
but never thought I'd never ever saw myself. I was always a shy kid. I never saw myself as a public speaker. I never even considered that I could do it. But the more I would learn about comedians, I'd be like, these people sound kind of like who I am, and it always intrigued me. And then with
Right.
the Hickok45 stuff, I started a podcast, long time ago that I quit for a long time, very stupidly. And that kind of made me realize, like, yeah, maybe I could, do something like that.
Sure.
And when and just to be totally real, like when I started being in the Hickok45 videos more, I realized like people were not going to accept me in that role very easily, right? So I
Yeah, yeah.
realized I kind of needed to one do so, because dad had came into this with all this teaching experience, right? From being a
Mm,
teacher for decades. So I realized like, okay, I got to kind of go out and get my own type of experience that I can kind of bring to the table at some point, doing this. and then also just something else that I can do that where I'm not being compared to my dad every time I try
Oh
to
my
do it,
gosh,
right?
I cannot imagine what that's like. Like
Yeah,
you're living in his shadow, even though
right.
you helped create the shadow.
Right, yeah, exactly. I created my own demise.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was like those were the big things that really just kind of made me think maybe I should, do this. The worst case scenario, it'll just be good experience for me, But then as I got into it, I just got hooked in and just got to where I love it to the point where it's like I would choose that over almost everything.
That's amazing, man.
So
I've enjoyed watching you sort of go out and take a run at it, because most people are so scared to do it. I mean, myself
right.
included. There's actually a clip on YouTube that people will never be able to find. It's in a
Okay.
buddy of mine's gaming video, right? And it's literally the moment I stopped chasing the idea in my head of stand-up comedy. And I'll tell you what happened. So we're playing Call of Duty, right? And it's just banter and it's just us talking shit like always, right? And this is like Call of Duty 4, ages ago. And I was like, guys, this was my crew. And I'm like, guys, I'm thinking about trying some stand-up. And it was crickets, and then nope. And then and I was like, shit, that hurt. And it cut me. And now watching
Yeah.
you, I'm like, man, I should have just said fuck it and gone after it.
Because it
But
never that feeling never goes away.
what feel like that sort of
When
rejection
you
of
have a tough set, it doesn't matter,
mm,
how inconsequential the set is. Like, for example, last night, I just hit an open mic. I had, a bunch of new stuff. I was working out. I knew I had really nothing, really, because my family was up visiting. I wasn't really writing, and I do this thing where I force myself to have new material, like, every week,
that's a
right?
great call,
Because
man.
if I know if I don't have anything good, then I'm gonna have a really tough week, and that really tough week is gonna make me really right to not feel that pain the next week, right? So either way, I win. If I have good stuff, I'm developing some new material to take on shows or on the road. If I have a bad week, and it's very inspiring to feel the suffering, but it
Yeah.
never gets old. So the set I did last night, it didn't matter. It did not matter even in the slightest amount that I had a bad set, but I was still so in my head about it that when I got back home, instead of pulling my keys out to open the door, I pulled out my debit card. That's
You're
how, like,
just
in my head I was
yeah,
about it.
you're just all out of sorts, man.
Yeah. So, but
It's funny.
you get
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, just a little nice thought on that. You get, it's kind of like, um, I well, I heard this is such a bad comparison, but I heard a Navy SEAL one time talking about someone wanting to train to be a Navy SEAL, and he was basically like, "If I told you I was gonna kick you in the balls in 2 weeks, how are you gonna prepare for that?" Right? And it's like, you can't. It's just gonna suck. And it's kind of the same thing where it's like there's no way to prepare. You're just gonna feel bad. And
Right.
eventually you just accept that you're gonna feel bad and then you kind of get over it.
I think it's so fascinating, because with the rise of comedy podcasting and all that, I feel like we all get a deeper look into the business and like the mentality of it all. Whereas, when Kings of Comedy was a thing, that was not, you did not know how things were operating behind the scenes. But this sort of rise in these guys sharing and being vulnerable and all that, you're starting to get a look and going like, these are just like normal dudes, and they take an L sometimes and it stings.
Absolutely.
I think you said something earlier that I want to circle back to. You said you stupidly stopped doing your podcast. Why is that dumb?
Well, I did the opposite of what almost all comedians do, where I started my podcast before I started comedy. And then when I started getting serious about comedy, I stopped doing it because I thought it would distract me from doing comedy. But now, some industry inside baseball, now we're in this new world in the industry that I'm hoping won't last forever. Where you basically have to have a certain level of social media presence for them to book you. They don't really care how good you are at clubs anymore. It used to
Really?
be, yeah, it used to be, you would kind of work your way up the ladder based on how good you were. If people were having trouble following you because you were so good, then okay, now you're moving up. You're the feature now. Or you got a headline now because these guys can't follow you or whatever. And there was like this ladder system guys would get on Carson and get in movie roles and things like that, and they would kind of, jump that whole system occasionally. But nowadays, clubs realize they can make more money from booking influencers. There's like,
Oh my gosh.
influencers that been doing comedy for like 9 months and they're terrible, and they get just absolutely buried by these random local comics. But hey, they're selling the place out, so they'll keep having them.
Is
I
that
get
like
it from a
like
money making
TikTokers and
standpoint,
shit
but
like that? Is that who you're talking
exactly,
about?
exactly. And it's tough. That I know a lot of just incredible comedians, just absolutely incredible comedians that are having trouble getting work because they're way overqualified for the job, but they don't have the presence to like sell tickets. No one wants to really like take a chance on them or try to build them. That's just kind of the way the industry works now. So that's a big reason why I screwed up, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna focus on comedy more and try to get really good, and then I realized like, oh, that doesn't even matter. It's
Well,
only
it's like
about the presence you have.
I remember when you started that podcast. I mean, we've known each other probably 10 years now. And I remember when you started that, and I remember that was like a different era of podcasting. It's super interesting because there was a time when everybody in the gun world was trying to do like a live show in like on like the evenings and that kind of stuff. And it was sort of in that era that you went ahead of everybody and did a podcast, which at the time was like, what's a podcast? You know what I
Oh,
mean?
right,
Like
yeah.
it was in that era of like people were still trying to figure it out. And the gun world was like, okay, do this. Sean Heron is one of the only guys that consistently did it, with We Like Shooting
Yeah.
for that entire time.
They were
The
probably the
rest,
first,
yeah, they were
right?
super
Yeah.
early. And the rest of us like did it for a little bit, tried it out, and then kind of stopped. And you said you pushed on to comedy. And I sometimes wonders like what if like everybody stuck at that side of things, would this sort of comedy podcast thing be where it is right now? Because you look at the charts, it's Tom Segura, it's Bert, it's Theo Vaughn, like Bad Friends, all these top things are all comedy. What is that like for you to go, well, I'm good on stage and now I have to build this other part of the business. Like, what is that like?
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, because I was in. It's like, anytime you realize you were headed in the right direction at the right time, and then you stopped doing that, and then you see other people who didn't stop and what the results they've had. It's like,
Yeah,
that's tough.
shit.
You know, it's like, that's what I get for thinking that the craft of stand up matters.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, it does.
I know it does. Of
It
course it does.
does.
People watch comedy and they know if it's good or bad, but it's just the tough thing about the industry is, it's weird. Like comedy's not like a lot of things. You can't practice at home, right? So you know what I mean. You can't. So
I just had a visualization of you standing in front of a mirror laughing at your own jokes.
yeah, exactly.
Boy, am I funny.
Right. Yeah. No, you can't do it. So, the quality of stage time you get, that makes a huge difference on how fast you grow, as a comic. And, so that's the game. It's like, you got to find a way to kind of finagle your way in to where you can even get the experience to even be able to, be a headliner, but the situation I'm in is really kind of unique because it's like, I have this platform and access to this platform and people know who I am. They don't really know me as a comic. I
Right.
don't really have a great way to access a lot of people with my comedy other than to put out a special on Hickok45, which I'm
That
going to
that
do.
would be real interesting, dude.
I'm going to do that at some point, but I'm also, very cautious because I know that when I put that out, it has to be immaculate, you
Yeah.
know.
I don't disagree. I
So I'm
mean,
waiting.
that audience has huge expectations of you. And if it bombs, you'll know about it.
I'm done for life.
You will absolutely. I wouldn't say that you're done for life. I think
Yeah.
it'll just sting for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, only about 50 years or something.
Yeah, just a
Yeah.
couple decades.
It also has to be clean. That's another thing that holds me back
Oh,
because our channel is clean. So, I have clean stuff, but most of my better stuff is not clean. So, that's another thing. I have to like it's going to take some time. It's going to be a while before I really feel like I'm ready to do that. But that's the plan, though.
What about like censoring it? Could like the bleeps and that kind of stuff? Do you think you could do
Could,
that?
but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It wouldn't be as take away from it, and
I feel like I can tell just in the tone of your voice that that's a hard decision for you on like how to get there, because I know you're not a what people would call clean comic. You probably have clean stuff, but I wouldn't consider you a clean comic with some of the jokes I've heard. Uh
no, yeah.
like what I don't even know how you would make that transition into like going full clean
Right.
for what do you think you do, an hour, or do you like half hour? What would your first special be?
No, I mean, honestly, what I've thought about doing is treating it like a late night special kind of deal where I just do a
Okay.
5 minutes, just do a
That
5 minute set. But the thing is, when it's shorter, it actually puts even more burden, though. You know what I
They
mean? 'Cause
they've
it's
gotta
only 5
be
minutes.
immaculate jokes. They have to be
It,
crushing jokes.
exactly. There's no. It's got to be just killer, And I get on a lot of shows. I do clubs and stuff like that, but I just don't quite feel comfortable putting it out yet. I want to at least get to the point where I'm, you know, working it on the road enough, to where I really
Sure.
feel like, all right, I've got it, kind of thing. So I'm giving it some time, but I think in the next 2-3 years or maybe less, I think that could be possible.
It's super comedy as a whole is super interesting because, if you have, 5 to 15 minutes of a set, I mean, you're working an entire week, leading up to that because it's often on the weekends. I mean, you're working 5 to 6 days, depending on how often you're performing, to nail like 5 to 15 minutes. That's
Right.
fascinating. That's just
Years.
absolutely fascinating.
Take years to really put together a good act. That's the thing is, see, when you're starting out, the stage time you're getting is not the same as what a typical comedy club crowd would be, right? So if
What do you mean
your
by that?
first so like your first material has to be built from what we call open mics, right?
Okay.
Which the audience is a lot of times it's other comedians mostly, or it's just people who just happen to be at the bar and didn't even know comedy was going to be happening, right? So those
Or
audiences are
don't
very
care.
exactly. So the kind of stuff you have to do to make those kind of crowds laugh a lot of times is frightening to regular people. So it does not work, you know what I mean? And then so there's that it takes a lot longer. So if you're constantly headlining clubs, you can build material so fast. You're doing 45 minutes, twice a night throughout a weekend, maybe like 5, 6, 7 sets every single week. You've got so much room to kind of play around and riff and try things and experiment. That's how these guys that put out, specials every few years, that's how they do it. And where a lot of times it'll take a comic 10, 12, 15 years to build their first hour because they're having to
Right.
build it from this very difficult place.
A lot of the comedians that I've heard talk about that initial part of their career, they say it's about 10 years of a grind, and
Right.
then you can start, like you
Exactly.
finally have some real material. So the
I'm at
the
8
thing
right
out
now, so
so you're at 8. Yeah,
I'm
so 2
getting there.
years, bro.
Hey, exactly 2 years on the date. That's when that's when I'll be good.
That's when the special drops. No,
Right.
so the thing that is I'm very curious about this. The first part of your career, as it were, as an entertainer was 100% guns, and
Right.
now you've gone into this complete different realm. How much crossover is there for you? Like, are you making, I've heard a couple jokes about like being guns and like references to the channel. Like,
Mhm.
how much of that is part of your material?
Yeah, I've quite a bit of gun stuff that I do. Yeah, I've had some jokes about YouTube. That's kind of an untapped thing that I still want to elaborate more on. Just the experience of working with that and like things like that. I think as I evolve and get more better stage time, I'll be able to kind of work out some bigger concepts like that. But yeah, I have a lot of gun jokes. I have I've been doing lately about owning machine guns. It's fun, which I think could be one that would be on the little special at some point,
All
possibly.
right.
We'll see.
Well,
I've got a bunch that I've wanted to like post on Instagram that I've been holding off on because I have a bunch I don't really want anyone to see unless they see me live. until I put that
Oh,
out, kind of thing, you know.
that's
But yeah, I
that's a
do a
whole
lot of
nother thing. Like during
gun
COVID,
stuff.
like that was the whole thing is like just drop clips on TikTok and Instagram. And that
Mhm.
was how guys built careers.
Right. And the thing is, though, I can see both sides of it, right? There are a lot of comics who do say that, just put it out. Who cares? Put it out, you know.
Uh-huh.
But my again, my situation is a little different from a lot of comics because people know me from this thing, and I do have people come see me from that are fans of the Hickok45 videos, and my fear is I put a lot of stuff out, then they come see my act, and there's all the stuff they've already seen, you know.
Well, I mean, that's from my perspective, like from me to you, I think you need to stop giving a shit about that because the expectation, I mean, worrying about the expectation of these other people in order to grow your career is like worrying about this is an issue we used to have at gun stores that I worked with, and it's worrying about the old people customers and not worrying about the new customers. You know what I
Interesting.
mean? Like you're not
Yeah.
servicing the new customers or gaining new customers by only worrying about the people that currently spend money with you, so to speak, and give you
Right.
attention. I would encourage you to just put out as much as you can and as many clips and this and that and be everywhere because I want to see you be on top, dude. Like I think you're hilarious
I appreciate it.
and I would love to see you, sort of headlining all over the country because you have the chops. You know what I mean? Like you've got the perspective and the just like unique look at life through the just like there's so many bits of your life that you can draw from my perspective again. Like I think you'd crush, dude.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Because I want to. Yeah, I feel like I can speak to maybe a section of the population that isn't spoken to a lot, and this, not to compare myself to Shane Gillis, who's maybe he may end up being one of the best comedians to ever do it, and I'll never even touch a level like that. But he speaks to a really specific slice of America where
Yeah.
it's like just dudes are just tired of the bullshit. They're not like overly Republican, but they're just tired of like the liberal horse shit,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just like, we just want to drink and watch football, like leave us alone, kind of thing. And I feel like I have kind of like my own slice of that I can kind of speak to of like gun guys, but maybe like not as much the ones that are like super conservative uptight, like kind of like heavy metal gun guys, younger gun, like people like
Yeah.
our age, and stuff like that. Because I do jokes about weed and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I'm not like a conservative church comedian. I'm definitely not a woke comedian. I kind of
You sure?
yeah, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure. So yeah, I mean, it's a work in progress, but I enjoy it.
I saw Shane the first time I ever saw him. I had no idea who he was at Helium in Philly, and I laughed so hard that my girlfriend at the time was like, "Are you okay?"
Totally. That's how
Well,
funny he is.
dude, I it caught me
Crazy.
off guard so hard, like
Yeah.
spitting out my drink kind of laughs, and I would love to see you punching in that arena, dude, fighting in that arena because he's good and you're good, and I think the interesting thing is it's just a matter of time with
Yeah.
a lot of this because you know what it's like to have a big audience and speak to a big audience and deal with that. Like you have that experience, and most guys don't even
True.
understand how to build one. You know,
True.
I don't know,
Yeah.
man. I
It
just I'm excited to like see your career grow.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. It's gonna be a slow burn for sure. I mean, the gun thing doesn't help me with the industry,
In what
that
way? How so?
well, because it's a very liberal industry,
Mm,
especially at those smaller levels. The interesting thing about the comedy industry, and I think entertainment in general probably, is that kind of at the top, they don't really give a shit. If you can sell tickets, they'll hire you. They don't really care about anything. It's all
mm,
about the money. But the lower levels that you have to kind of get through to be seen by them is very just artistic community, type of thing, right? So
right,
that is the part that I have like more trouble with because of my background, and they have a lot of preconceived notions about who I am and things like that. So
right.
it's tougher, with them. I mean, kind of like one thing I'm going to start doing. There's a lot of comedians who will just kind of self book their own tours,
Dude,
and that's
that'd be
one thing.
amazing.
That's one thing I'm working on right now. I'm trying to. There's this comedian in Chicago who I always try to talk about this guy because it's like he's to me he's almost like a Shane Gillis level funny guy,
Okay.
but he just doesn't have a career. I talked about him before. Junior Stopka is his name,
Okay. All right.
and I'm trying to get him. He's shown some interest in going back on the road. I'm trying to go on the road with him, have him like headline and stuff to kind of learn how to self book my own tours. He's got a Comedy Central credit, so I think he
No
can kind
shit.
of bring some people out. So he used to open for Doug Stanhope for a long time.
Okay.
You
Okay.
guys are watching this, look up Junior Stopka on YouTube. He has this video that's one of the funniest videos I've ever seen. And it's like this old, low quality video with bad audio, but he does this bit where it's he does an impression of Bill Burr, and it's Bill Purr, cat comedian.
Oh my gosh.
He goes out, he does an impression. It's like if Bill Burr was a cat, It's like, it's a Christmas tree. I'm gonna climb up it, It's jangling, it's brutal.
Dude.
It's like it's so funny.
That's fucking ridiculous.
He's absurd.
Do you do any impressions? Like, do you delve into that side of the world?
Not really. Maybe at some point. I'm not a big impressions guy.
I would love to see that. I would love to see you do like a fucking Obama impression or something like really weird. Yeah. Like like I got this dynamite Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
People don't even fucking know who he is.
Yeah.
I love I don't know if people can tell, but like I love stand-up comedy. I love it. I always do. I used to watch what the hell was it called? It was Friday nights on Comedy Central. It was Comedy Central Presents. That's what it was. Every Friday night there was a new like couple like short specials that would go out, and I would literally sit there every time and watch all of it. I don't care who the comic was. I would watch it all. And some were good and some were absolute trash. And now to see like some of those guys either failed, succeeded, whatever, it's super interesting. It's like, I remember that guy from forever ago. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's fun going back and watching those. It's funny though when you watch the really old ones, like you ever watch Evening at the Improv.
I've watched some of those. Yeah.
From like the late 80s, early 90s. And when you're watching through those, it's like, if I don't know who this is, it didn't work out.
yeah. You're like, oh, must not be that good.
Yeah, because this is like 35 years ago.
So like going from that appreciation of old comedy to like what comedy has become now, what do you think is the hardest part for you? Like in general, what is the most difficult thing that you face as like a growing comedian?
Well, I will say one of the biggest things is like if you really value the craft, it's a huge disadvantage, right? Because to me, it's super important to be original. Have a perspective, that's uniquely mine, and to be myself. To kind of find my own way of being funny on stage. Trying to write material about things that other people aren't talking about, right? And it's more challenging because the reason a lot of people aren't talking about that thing is because it's harder to be funny with it, right?
Sure.
But I want to be original, and a lot of times though, comedians, if they just don't give a shit about being hack, doing low hanging fruit, jokes that have been done or whatever, there's really, unfortunately, no one really polices that stuff like you would think in the comedy community. Like, we'll talk shit about those guys, but that's about the extent of it, right? And all the club bookers see is just like, oh, they're getting laughs, so they don't know if they're ripping off.
Right.
I mean, I see comedians not only ripping off jokes, but ripping off someone's entire demeanor.
Really?
Just basically like doing an impression, not as a bit, but like just of a famous comedian.
Guy like just gets up there and sounds like Bill Burr, like entirely.
Totally.
Like, bro, you're not even from Boston.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Shane Gillis is a big one. I see a lot of people doing Shane Gillis. I'll tell you one that I've seen really a lot lately is a combination of Shane Gillis and Stavros, if you know who that is.
Oh,
yeah, I see a
Stavros
lot of young.
is big with the young guys.
He is. I see a lot of comedians basically just doing their like a combination of their, mannerisms and stuff like that. So that is frustrating that there's not enough, comedians who kind of police themselves, and like for example in Chicago, the funniest comedians, that I know in Chicago are older, and a lot of them don't get the work that you would expect them to get, which I don't know, maybe they don't try hard enough, to
Sure.
whatever to get booked or things like that. But yeah, it's frustrating sometimes when you see just like people who are doing really hack stuff, but they just kind of know the business side of the industry well enough to sort of navigate and put themselves in situations. I just wish there were more people in positions of power that like had standards when it came to the craft. But I know what it is. I'm not willing to compromise on that. It's like I'll figure out my own way of getting in, because I'm just not
So
willing to compromise on that.
that brings me to some comparison mentally. So you guys were, have been, top of the heap for a long time in terms of YouTube gun content. And you talked about people copying and sort of ripping off the style. And I have seen so many attempts at doing hell, when Dave started, when 22 Plinkster started, I thought he was a rip off of you guys.
Oh yeah.
Like, he had the steel targets, he had them out on the side of the hill, oh, everybody has a Hickok range. All of a sudden, people said the same thing about Brandon, who stopped doing it a while ago. Oh, you're just trying to copy Hickok. Do you feel like any animosity towards some of those guys that the like sort of borrowed ideas?
Yeah, not necessarily.
Like, not maybe
Honestly,
not those guys specifically because they were
yeah, yeah,
friends of
yeah.
yours.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always been surprised that people don't copy us more, honestly. Really, I mean, I've always felt like everyone was chasing FPS Russia.
Mm.
My thought has always been, and some people successfully did it,
Yeah.
right? But my thought has always been everyone is kind of missing the more consistent long game, and they're going for the top, and there's not room for many of those.
No.
That's always I feel like that can be applied to a lot of different things, right? If you're chasing the absolute best, there's maybe only one or two spots at the very top, and most people are going to chase that, and like almost everyone is going to fail. Whereas there's like that kind of middle of the road where you kind of you kind of grow, slow and steady, And I feel like that was always our thing, and not a ton of people were really trying to just do that, just be a gun review channel.
Sure. Well, I
Everyone
mean,
was like, "I gotta have the craziest video."
I look at gun reviews now, and all I see, industry wide, and this is a YouTube issue, is clickbait, and that's something you never got into. How
Yeah.
have you avoided that?
We just always felt like it would turn off our, loyal viewers, and again, it's kinda comes down to I don't know, just we weren't willing to compromise on doing things like that, like, we kind of established that we aren't the kind of channel that does that, and
Sure.
we felt like it compromised our integrity to do that. There's always been certain limits that we put on ourselves, things we would not cross. We established that our channel was a clean channel, so we don't cuss on the channel. We established we weren't going to take sponsorship from firearms manufacturers. It's not even that we're judging people that do. It's just like we just decided we weren't going to ever do that, and we never did do that. We different things like that where we just kind of thought, we're not. I'll tell you, we did finally start doing thumbnails recently. We let our YouTube rep sort of talk us into that. It's like, all right, everyone has thumbnails. I guess we gotta
You got to do
start
it.
doing thumbnails. But yeah, as far as like the clickbait titles, that's one thing that's been fun about this clips channel though, is because it feels like a lot of those rules are kind of off. Where
Okay.
you know what I mean? Where it's kind of
So
like,
you got let off your leash by
yeah, it's
yourself.
like right, exactly, yeah, yeah. Because it's not like a thing where like I wouldn't want to do that on the main channel.
Right.
It's not like Dad is like, we can't clickbait, and I'm like, we have to clickbait, Dad. I'm telling you, I would never, I would not want to do it, and because I want to keep what that is pure. But yeah, the clips channel, it's like, who cares? It's all bonus. Just having fun making stuff, and there's clickbait is a fine line.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
It's a fine line. My belief is that it's not a true clickbait unless the title is actually genuinely misleading
Yeah.
as to what the content is. I'll tell you a video I had some success with from a few days ago on the Clips channel, and I've pulled it out from one of Dad's long talking videos that have had different names over the years. I think it was like back when we were calling it Shooting the Breeze.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, where you would, like, sit down and just talk.
yeah, exactly. And Dad was sort of like getting philosophical about like mean comments on the internet. You know,
Okay.
he was sort of talking about how, you know, only so many people comment anyways, and of the people who comment, they're more likely to be, you know, someone who's like crazy and is going to say something crazy. You know, you're just kind of getting into the
The
weeds of
minutia
like
of it. Yeah, yeah.
or whatever. And so I thought, oh, this is kind of an interesting discussion. So I cut out 2 minutes of that, and then I made the title "Why All the Mean Comments," right? And it got a lot of attention because people thought it was like something where it was like we've had enough of these mean comments, you know, we
Right,
have, you know,
right,
or
right.
whatever. It's like it's from an old video, and it was just, you know, something to talk about or whatever. So it's like, is that borderline clickbait? Maybe. I mean, it's called "Why the Mean Comments," and he's talking about mean comments, you know. So I mean, yeah, on that channel, I'm going to definitely push the envelope a little bit further, but I still wouldn't be willing to just, you know, say something like "I destroyed my car," and it's like I just
Yeah.
got a flat tire or something, you know.
Dude, with my new van channel, I'm, like, playing around because having an established audience versus a new audience, the stuff that works is not the same. It's also a totally different industry. So I have, like, a taste of what you're dealing with. So I'm like, there's the recent video, like, I purposely made it clickbaity. I was like, you know what? Let's see how this goes.
Right,
Like, let me try it. Didn't work. Didn't work.
damn. Yeah, I mean, also, you know, on the main Hickok45 channel, we've been stubborn to not change, but the times have changed. You
Right?
know,
Yeah,
these days are so
absolutely.
different. There's so many more people making content, and to try to get noticed, it is to the point where, like, you know, if you're not clickbaiting, you know, a little bit, it's gonna be tough. You know, you gotta do something to kind of get people in the door, and as long as your content is good enough, then it's okay. They won't be upset.
Was there ever a time when you thought you were, like, just done?
With YouTube making
Yeah,
YouTube
yeah,
videos.
like, just as a whole, like, "Dude, I'm so sick of X, Y, or Z." Like, have you ever just wanted to quit?
Um, I mean, I'm gonna say yes and no.
Okay, explain
I've
that.
never, yeah, I've never not been in a place where I was burnt out on making content. Like,
Okay.
it's fun. It's always fun. It's like comedy. It's like when you create something and you put it out there and you get feedback. Like, it's just that never gets old, right? But sure. I mean, let me put it this way. Picture this. Uh, you drop out of college, you move home, and you start a business making videos with your dad. Is it going to go smooth all the time?
Did you guys argue a lot off obviously, it's not on camera, but, like, were there, like, big arguments between you 2?
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Like,
oh
about what? What would you guys argue about?
yeah. You know, we'd have. Yeah, I don't want to get too detailed, but we'd have difference of opinion on certain things.
Okay.
You know, and
Like, "I don't wanna do another Glock, damn it."
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, there's no way for it to not, you know, be complicated sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's my dad, and it's only us, right? So it's his word against mine when we have some sort of disagreement. You know what I mean? There's no like other crew members or whatever to kind of
Sure.
weigh in, you know.
I
And
mean, what do you guys do to settle that? Do you, like, flip a coin? Like, how's that go?
we just like don't talk to each other for a few days, and no, it's not usually that bad, but um, it's I mean, I usually will try to pick my battles, you know, like there's certain things where it's like I don't like this, you know, but if
Right.
he's like really wants to do it, I'm like, all right, fine. But then there's been times where I'm just like, we can't do this. Like we cannot do this, you know. And it's like
"Dad, I
I
don't
think
want you in a bikini." "No."
yeah, exactly. They're not gonna like it.
I'm telling you. I know it's
Yeah,
2024. They don't want it.
yeah, exactly. But anytime, any you know, hell, I used to be married. Like, there's no way that two people are just going to get along all the time if they're spending that much time with each other. It's
Sure.
impossible. It's impossible. And then you add in, you know, the creative process,
Mm.
and there's money at stake, right? And then you know, and then you've got this little bit of celebrity that we're not
Little
the
bit of
same
ego
level
comes
of, and
in.
he's my
Yeah.
dad and I'm his son, and you know, it's a recipe for disaster. I'm honestly surprised that we've made it work as well as we do. You know.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that just speaks to the character that your dad instilled in you prior to, you know, you guys and his father instilled in him. Like you had a decent upbringing, at
Right.
least, you know, from what I can see, that enables you to have some humility and not just like argue and realize like there's something bigger going on here.
Right.
I mean, you
And
guys
that's
go ahead.
what's really sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
That's all right.
that's what's really helped, you know, because you know, that's what is so cool about, as you know, creating something that people enjoy. You feel like, you know, yeah, of course, there's a selfishness of, you know, I make this thing and did people like it, you know, or whatever, and then you make
Right.
some money from it. There's the selfishness part of it, but then there's also the part of it where, like, oh, if I stopped this thing, like people would be not happy about it. So it's like there's like a responsibility to
Sure.
continue this thing, and we both love doing it, and that's always, you know, whatever fight we had about some sort of difference or whatever, that's always kind of brought us back to home. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like, you know, like you know, especially early on when it was kind of more like, is this even worth it? There was more of that kind of thing early on, and then it was like, nah, we got to do this. This is
Yeah.
important, you know.
Like back in the gun fund era, you know, when you're trying to like, I don't think people realize how little money was available at that time frame. Like it was
Mhm.
just like money on YouTube was not a thing. Ad
Right.
revenue was not a thing. It just wasn't. I don't know when they started monetizing gun stuff, but it was not in a big way. It wasn't like all of a sudden everybody's overnight millionaires. Let's put it that
Right. Oh no. No.
way.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, people, I think, even today, like completely overestimate how much they think, you know, we're making. Like, we're not gun YouTubers are not Logan Paul. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a different thing. There's a limit to what we can make. You know, just because we're stuck with our own industry for the most part. Other industries don't want to work with us a lot of time. You know, have you ever
Yeah.
seen a Wendy's ad on a Garand Thumb video? You know what I mean? It's not going to happen probably.
Right. Right.
You know, no matter how big Garand Thumb gets, he's not gonna have a fast food ad.
Well, I think he's one of the few guys that has been able to retain quote unquote gun channel status while like delving into entertainment. Whereas
For
some of the
sure.
other guys, I just look at them as just pure entertainment with guns, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
He is one of my favorites of the really big channels, the new big channels right now, just because it's like he's making cinema.
Yeah.
It's cinema. It's crazy. Like
The way
it's
I
incredible.
explained it to somebody literally yesterday was we were talking about production value. So I was at a company called Mainline Overland that's building my van, and I was talking with their new media guy, and I said he brought up Grantham. He's like, I watched that stuff. I was like, hell yeah. So I think what's interesting is we saw this like transition of back in the day, it was not possible to do cinema quality. Like it wasn't
Right.
possible for guys like us that when we, you know, early on, we just that was not financially viable. But now it
Right.
is. And you know, Grantham is a prime example of like that is cinema level quality, but they're still just out there fucking around having a good time.
Exactly. And they're reviewing guns. They're talking. You're learning
Yeah,
something.
exactly. It's
It,
wild that that's where we've gotten to.
Yeah, it's not purely fireworks. Like, you are learning something when you watch his videos combined with all that. It's cool. I have a lot of respect for what he does, and the reason we've, you know, never really upped our cinematography level other than just, you know, updating cameras over the years, because, you know, we realize, like, we're going to be able to compete with other guys who are doing that. So maybe our thing can be like, we're going to try to stay true to the kind of the origins of what YouTube videos were, what we were on YouTube, and we're just going to kind of stick to that, for better or for worse. That, you know, that'll be our thing. You know.
Well, I mean, you know, you and your dad are whether you like it or not, sort of old stewards of the gun community in the YouTube world. Like that's what you guys are, and it's kind of fascinating. So in that realm, you also become de facto Second Amendment like pillars, so to speak.
Right.
People look to you for guidance on that in a large way. What was it like? Because I know people have come at you with offers for everything under the sun from every group out there. How did you sort of navigate all that?
Clumsily.
Yeah, I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine what that was like.
Have you ever seen that video of the guy he starts slipping on the ice and he just like keeps running and just
yes, the longest fall ever.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, there's nothing more that you're going to get scrutinized more for when it comes to the Second Amendment issues, and if people feel like you're doing it in the right way, supporting the right people, or it's to have a 100% rating from from the commenters.
Ain't happening.
Brandon Herrera might be the only guy. He might be the only one. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's tough, but yeah, I mean, there's the NRA, debacle and all these different things that we.
So what was, because I know there are people that are so new that they don't know about the NRA debacle.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, did that even happen?
Ooh, it's a secret.
What was I saying?
So like, I mean, are you confident in saying that every Second Amendment organization has tried to get a hold of you guys at some point?
No, not all of them, for sure.
That's kind of surprising to me. That means they don't know what the fuck they're doing. But
yeah, maybe not. Yeah, I don't know where to start with that. I mean, I will say this: we have always felt like, we've made some mistakes. We were, I'll say we were wrong to support the NRA as long as we did. We didn't. I didn't know. I'll be honest. I didn't know enough about it. I grew up in a time when there's conspiracy theories everywhere about everything.
Right.
On the internet. So just because people are saying that the NRA is this or it's that doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. And that was always kind of the way that I felt about it. But then over time, that it became more obvious that hey, maybe there's a little fire to this smoke.
Sure.
And people gave us a hard time for that, maybe deserved, but it wasn't with bad intentions that we worked with the NRA. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, but whatever. It's in the past. I always felt like, though, we have done a lot for the Second Amendment in regards to introducing new shooters to guns.
110%.
I've always felt like that was an important thing. Whatever. I don't know what it is, but whatever, if we had a role in, being one of the first YouTube channels and other people starting gun channels and whatever our role was in just that entire space, because I feel like the whole space, it really has in some ways saved our rights over the last few years. If there was not gun content on the internet, I think we would have lost a lot of stuff after all these different shootings that have happened. So many people have been able to get into guns because of internet gun content. Everybody's, not just us, obviously.
Sure.
So I feel like our piece of that means something. We've earned the right to make some mistakes, I would like to think. But.
I don't disagree. I think you guys are in a very difficult position, because you want to, like, if you swapped, whatever group you were working with every other month, you'd look like a clown.
Right.
But like, I appreciate and understand the decisions you guys have made. And I know just from my short stint in gun stores for a few years, like the number one channel that gets mentioned by newcomers is Hickok45. Bar none, that's the one that gets mentioned. And it's interesting because at this point you've probably covered every handgun in existence. Right? Like,
you would think so. We keep running across ones we haven't done, but yeah, we've done a lot for sure.
So this is it's a bad question, but I have to ask it.
Okay.
What's your favorite that you've shot of all the stuff, and you cannot say you're freaking belt fed. That's
Damn
a
it, that's what
cheater.
I was gonna
That is
say.
a cheater question. That's a bad answer because everybody knows it's the belt fed. Like, give me like your favorite pistol, your favorite rifle, your favorite shotgun.
Oh damn.
Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm.
You made it tough
I'm making it
on
real difficult.
me. Let me think. Favorite man.
Favorite pistol. Start there.
Yeah, you're gonna hate this answer
I'm
probably,
not.
but maybe probably the Glock 18 when we got to do those videos.
Dude, that gun is so good. The
Yeah,
18 is so much fucking fun.
it was so fun, and it was cool to, I had shot full auto Glocks before at different whatever events or just whatever. You pick it up, you run a mag or whatever, but to get to actually have time with it, to hold it in your hands and flick the switch up and down and look at it and feel it,
Yeah.
that was really cool because that's just one of those like unobtainium kind of guns, for a lot of people, myself included. We had a few very special days with it, and it was a lot of fun. So the Glock 18
So the
maybe
18
pistol wise.
was it an 18C or just an 18?
It was just a regular 18.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
The one that we broke. I don't know if you saw that video.
I don't remember, dude. I have seen so many of your damn videos. I don't remember what you have. Like, I've seen you break stuff. I've seen you shoot stuff. The shots that you guys pull off always piss me off because I'm like, you make everybody else look horrible. Horrible. Like, between you and Dave, like, for God's sake, can you make the rest of us look like normal people instead of terrible?
Dave's got to stop splitting cards,
Yeah. Dude, that was one of the first interactions I had with him was he took my Desert Eagle and split a card with it. And I was like, what the fuck, Dave?
That's crazy.
I still have the card.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
One day we'll open a YouTube gun channel museum.
Holy shit. What would go in that museum? Like, what would you put in there?
It's got to be.
Yes, I'm giving you an out on the favorites.
Oh, no. I'll get there. We'll get there. All
right. All right.
Oh, I know. The piece de resistance. Did I say that right?
Yeah,
I tried.
that's correct.
Of this museum is for sure 100% chance. Nothing else can compete with this. The piece of metal that almost killed FPS Russia.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's got to be like on that pillar with a single light on it.
Exactly. That'd be like the big grand finale.
Dude, that was terrifying.
All right. So a rifle. Let's see.
That's hard, man.
It is tough. I'm trying to think of like something I shot where I was just like, wow, that was
right.
That was special to get to do. Well, I don't know why for some reason my brain is going. I mean, I'll tell you, Dad owns this gun, but like shooting the original Civil War rifles.
Well, like
something.
What was that? A muzzle loader at that point? I'm trying to remember what era.
Like the infield.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, maybe something like that. I'm trying to think of guns that like I've shot so many guns, like something that really is just like, oh wow, this is like a unique experience to get
something that shoots like a mini ball or something like that.
Yeah, that was cool. Shotgun wise, for sure, was when we did the I can't remember what shotgun we used, but when we had the that salvo suppressor, that was pretty cool.
Oh,
we did a video with that. I think we used a 590. I can't remember what gun. Probably pull it up right now, but
that was a long time ago.
Yeah, but yeah, my M60 is my favorite.
Yeah, I knew that. That was like duh. M60. It's one of the coolest guns out there, and the fact that you have one makes me eternally jealous.
I can't believe I have one. I open my safe occasionally, and I'm just like, that's crazy. That's in there.
You got to put like a little like speaker, like a motion sensor thing. Every time.
Yeah, exactly. A light comes on.
Yeah. Well, dude, I have stolen enough of your time. I really appreciate it, man.
This was great. Yeah, thank you.
I'm excited to see your career continue to grow. Where can people, find out about the comedy, the tour that's coming up, all that? Where can people learn about you?
The most Instagram, just Jon Hickok45 on Instagram, JOHN HICKOK45 on Instagram, probably the easiest.
Okay.
And I always have to spell it. People like to spell Hickok with an extra C in there. That's a different thing.
All right.
Yeah. And then, my podcast is Standard Capacity Podcast. So I've got a separate YouTube channel just called the Standard Capacity Podcast
Okay.
channel or whatever. That I do that, but I'd love to get you on mine
Dude,
sometime to come through
absolutely.
Chicago or Nashville.
I'm actually doing a tour of the US for a completely different reason later this year. So I am 100% going to come see you in Chicago. I want to see you do a set or two.
Absolutely.
Like I want to come see you perform.
Yeah, let's do it.
Above all else, that's what I want. But yeah, absolutely, dude.
There's a few of the gun guys, the We Like Shooting guys, Sean, all those guys, they came to a show one time. It's pretty cool. James Yeager, right in his last few months, he saw me do a set. I'll tell you what, I'll tell the story. I know we're gonna go, but
that's all right.
He told me this. It's so I have this line from a joke, and it doesn't work. I've tried making it
like the joke doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It worked the night that Yeager saw me, and he told me it was his favorite line. And I always think like I gotta get that thing to work because he said it was his favorite line, but I just can't get it to work. But anyways, the line is I have a joke about buying guns at a pawn shop, and they have this line where I say that a pawn shop is a police evidence locker for people who never got caught.
That's pretty good.
I
think you have to like really understand pawn shops and like the gun industry. Like that joke would kill at SHOT. You know what I mean? Like I think that would work at SHOT, but a normal person would be like, I don't get it.
Right. And that's what's tough about comedy. Sometimes you can have really what could be a great line and a great point, but it's just a hair off from being something that would make someone laugh, you know?
Yeah, I get it, man.
That little thing.
Well, again, thank you, John. Check out the Standard Capacity Podcast, Jon Hickok45 on Instagram. As always, thank you. Check out Vertex, vertx.com. Use code TGC. I say it all the time. Just go do it. That's it. Thanks, John. We'll see you soon, guys.
Thank you.